run without slides, just for all of you who are older. Oh, no, just for all those who say, I don't want slides. No. I'm joking. Oh, wait. Computer is a little slow today, to be honest with you. It was kind of a scramble for about the last 45 minutes before service, before class started, and then between services, trying to get equipment going. Technology at times can be great, and then at other times, technology can make you want to scream. So I'm using paper notes, but I am using PowerPoint. So yes, it's not old school, it's not new school, it's there. That's it. It's just there. Now, this morning we're talking about Jesus, the Son of God. And we've been diving into this subject matter for several weeks now. And in diving into it, we've been in the book of John, the Gospel of John. And this morning we'll be in the 5th chapter of the Gospel of John. In this, we need to understand so much that John is talking about. Because as John is penning this gospel account, he says this in John chapter 20, in verse 30. John chapter 20, verse 30, he says, "And truly Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name." And so as we look at the Gospel of John, and as we talk about Jesus, the Son of God, there really is no better way than to really dive in to the Gospel itself. And to see what Jesus says and does through many of these signs that John has recorded. Would you agree or disagree? It's kind of interesting because as you go through Mark and some of the other gospel accounts, one of the comments that the religious leaders would often say is, well, give us a sign that you're the Son of God. Show us that you're the Son of God by some great miracle, which is interesting. Because I don't know of many miracles that are easy. But evidently they didn't like the idea of healing a person who was completely lame. You know, they'd been laying here for 35 years, weren't able to get up off their bed and go to the pool. That wasn't good enough for them. Or a person who was born blind, and I don't know if you know anything about being born blind, but you see scientifically to make a person see who's been born blind is an impossibility. I don't know if you realize that. Here's why it's an impossibility. Those of you who are in science and in the medical fields, check it out. You see, the brain has to receive signals, right, from the eyes, from the images that you see. And a person who is born blind, that brain has never developed that ability to even receive the signal or the image that is taken in. Scientifically, we'll find a person who is born blind never develops their optic nerve at all. Their optic nerve is undeveloped. Consequently, we find out that if somebody has stayed in a room that is absolute darkness too long, guess what happens to them? They go blind without the opportunity or the possibility of regaining their sight. And so as Jesus is healing these people, he's going above and beyond what they could ever imagine, because he said, oh, this isn't something that's medically able to be cured, but this is impossible to be fixed. This is an impossibility. But God says, get up, take up your roll, and go. And they did. Wash, and you'll see. And so when we look at this and we stop and we ask the question, well, how do we know Jesus is who Jesus is? We stop back and we've got to look and say, well, what did he do to show himself as the Son of God? And the Gospel of John says, guys, he performed wonders. He performed these things so that we would know and that we would believe. You know, I come to think of it, there was one of his disciples that had a little bit of difficulty in that idea of believing. Do y'all know who he was? We sing about him. We have a song about him. Thomas. Thomas, who said, you know, unless I actually see the nails where they were put through his hands or his wrist, whatever, however you want to translate that, and where the scar is in his side or the wound is in his side, I just can't fathom that he would be raised from the dead. Because in Thomas's mind, that is an impossibility. And of course, we know that Jesus comes to Thomas and says, Thomas, take your finger, put it here. Take your hand and put it here. God is in the business of doing what is impossible. Amen. He is in the business of showing us his Son. The problem that we have is we often allow arrogance and ignorance to overrun godly wisdom. We often allow arrogance and ignorance to overrun godly wisdom. You ever thought about that? Because that is exactly what happens here in John chapter 5. So let us begin reading. John chapter 5, starting in verse 16. We read this. For this reason, the Jews persecuted Jesus and sought to kill him, because he had done these things on the Sabbath. But Jesus answered them, my Father has been working until now, and I have been working. What is it that Jesus did that caused such an uproar that makes people so mad, that upset people so much that they desire to put him to death? You ever stop to think about that? Yes, it was unlawful to do certain things on the Sabbath. But what was interesting is, it wasn't by penalty of death. But he had made people so mad, so infuriated, that they wanted him dead. Well, earlier in John chapter 5, verse 15, we read this. For the man departed, and this is referring to the one that he had healed earlier in John chapter 5. The man departed and told the Jews that it was Jesus who had made him well. Now, let's get a little background here, because here it is, Jesus in chapter 5 enters back into Jerusalem on one of the festival days. This is a Sabbath day, and as he's walking along, he walks through the area of what we call the pool of Siloam, and there are porches around that pool, and those who are blind, and those who are lame, and those who are crippled are often waiting in those porches, because it was said that when the water was stirred, the one who was able to get down to the pool was made whole, made well. And Jesus had come across this man who was laying there, and the scripture said he had been laying there over 30 years. And Jesus asked him, what's the problem? I've got no one to get me to the pool in time. That's what he tells him. In seeing this, the Messiah, the Son of God, tells them to get up, take his bedroll, and go. In the mind of the religious elite, that was his work. You were working on the Sabbath. But it was more than that. It was more than work. is doing something above and beyond what a person could do. The problem is, those who were in power had blinded themselves to who God is. And I think that's a question we need to ask ourselves still today. Have we blinded ourselves to who God is? Have we allowed our arrogance and our ignorance and godly wisdom to not prevail in knowing who the Messiah, who Jesus is? Have we told ourselves that, no, a good God could not allow these things to happen? And if a God was a truly good God, well, people wouldn't die. And if a God was truly a good God, then he wouldn't allow hurricanes to exist. And if a God was truly a good God, he wouldn't allow someone to die of cancer. Or he wouldn't allow genocide to happen. Or he wouldn't allow mass murder to take place. Have we blinded ourselves to who God truly is? When pride and hatred blind you from the truth. You see, that was the reality of those who were in power in the day and time of Christ. Power and hatred has blinded them, and truly I think it's somewhat what blinds us today. We are blinded because we have power and we have ability, and we create hatred. We create hatred in people simply because we don't like what they're saying, or what they're teaching, or how they're acting. Sometimes we create hatred because they ask us simply to be better people. So John goes on to say in chapter 5 and verse 18 and 19, therefore the Jews sought all the more to kill him, because he not only broke the Sabbath, but he also said that God was his Father, making himself equal with God. Then Jesus answered and said to them, most assuredly I say to you, the Son can do nothing of himself, but what he sees the Father do. For whatever he does, the Son does, or also does, in like manner. There, John says they sought to kill him more. They allowed the hatred, they allowed this venom that was in them become so riled up that they could not see the things that the Messiah was doing. They could not see how he had healed and how he had cared and how he truly had been obedient to the will of God. And here's something to think about. Oh, he had healed on the Sabbath. But in the book of Deuteronomy, in the law, as it was given in chapter 22 and verse 1 through 4, it reads this. Let's go there so we see this. In Deuteronomy 22 and 1 through 4, it says, you shall not see your brother or your brother's ox or his sheep go astray, and hide yourself from them. You shall certainly bring them back to your brother. And if your brother is not near you, or if you do not know him, then you shall bring it to your own house, and it shall remain with you until your brother seeks it. Then you shall restore it to him. You shall do the same with his donkey, and you shall do the same with his garment, with any lost thing of your brother's house, which he has lost, and you have found. You shall do likewise. You must not hide yourselves. He goes on to the next verse, verse 4. You shall not see your brother's donkey or his ox fall down along the road, and hide yourself from them. You shall surely help him lift them up again. Under the Mosaic law, there was a very clear, cut, and precise principle. You see someone, and when he says your brother, he's talking about any of your kinsmen who are around you. You see one of them has lost an animal, and you see it coming down the road. What are you to do? You go grab that animal. Anything they've lost, you go find it, and you hold it, and you wait for them to come find you, or you take it to them. Or as you're passing along and you see one of your brothers, your kinsman, struggling and in trouble with an ox, and even that principle goes beyond that. They need help. You are by law, according to God, supposed to give them aid. You're supposed to help your brothers. Now here's something to think about. Under the Mosaic law, as Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the Messiah, who has the ability to heal and to make whole again, comes up, and he comes to the pool of Siloam, and you see this one laying there, crippled and not able to get up, and you've got the ability to make him whole. By God's law, what must he do? He must heal him. He must make him whole again. What's interesting is this idea of rendering aid is even such that if it was the Sabbath, you render that aid. And so here we see the blindness and the hatred there of the Jews and the Pharisees there, the religious elite. They were so blinded to him. Oh, he's working on the Sabbath that they forget the very law in which they're being holy. And they ignore who that Son of God is. But beyond that, Jesus said, I couldn't do this if I wasn't. I'm only doing the will of my Father. Here's the interesting thing. They, the religious elite, the Jews, the Pharisees, the scribes today, were supposed to be watching for this Messiah, the Son of God, who was fulfilling the Scriptures, who was supposed to be able to heal and to make whole and make the lame walk again. They were to be watching for him, and they should have known that he was the Son of God, because that is what the Mosaic law actually says. But oh no, this can't be. And the reason being, because they did not like it. And so I ask this question, as Christians here, do sometimes we allow these same things to boil up within us when we see people around us, when we see people hurting, or when we are to be teaching people about Christ? Do we allow some hatreds to creep in and keep us from promoting the gospel of Christ? Have we allowed that to happen? And even further than that, has the world allowed a hatred because they don't want to lose power creep in? Have we ignored who Christ is because he causes us to have to live a different life? As we go on, though, in this lesson, we'll see this. For the Father and the Son bring life. I am pretty sure this man at the well, at the pool, agreed, Matt, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you think so? Yeah. You don't have a whole lot. You've got life, but you don't have a whole lot of life just laying there waiting on somebody. He would understand what this is when it says that Jesus is the one who brought life. Or in chapter 5, as we go into verse 20 and following, it says this. For the Father loves the Son and shows him all things, and he himself does, and he will show him greater works than these, that you may marvel. For as the Father raises the dead and gives life to them, even the Son gives life to whom he will. Now, I don't know if you quite get what he's talking about there, but he's talking to those who are so upset about it, and he says, look, just as God gives life, so the Son himself will give life. And he's referring to his life on the cross. Just as Jesus Christ gave his life on the cross, he gives us life. earlier, said, these things are done so that we may believe that he is the Christ, the Son of God, and in believing we may have life. First, you see, you cannot honor the Father without honoring the Son. And that's the whole problem that we have going on in this whole section of Scripture here, is they did not want to honor Jesus as the Son of God. And by not honoring Jesus as the Son of God, they failed to honor God, which is the whole crux of the problem. You see, they thought in their righteous indignation that they were justified in wanting to put the Messiah to death because he claimed to be the Son of God. But by denying who he was, they were the very people who were denying God. For you cannot honor the Father without honoring the Son. So as we go there in verse 22, we continue on reading this. For the Father judges no one, but has committed all judgment to the Son, that all should honor the Son just as they honor the Father. For he who does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. So you who want to persecute, you who want to put the Messiah to death, and this is what John's recorded and written down for them. Jesus says, those of you who want to put me to death, who say, I'm not honoring God by saying I'm the Son of God, you yourselves are not honoring God because you deny who I am, even though I have fulfilled the Scripture. Now this is kind of, you've got to look in there between the lines and start seeing what's going on. Just as Christ has fulfilled and he has performed these things, showing who he is, they're denying the very existence of God. And in denying God, they are denying Christ. They do not honor the Father. For you see, Jesus is the Son of God. And that's really the whole time what we've been looking at this morning, is that Jesus is that Son of God, as Jesus goes to show over and over again here in this argument. Well, we want to put him to death. Why? Because he worked in blaspheming God. How did he work? Oh, he worked by obeying the Mosaic law, obeying the law, and performing miracles which only the Messiah could do. So you see, they were upset and mad and blinded out of pure hatred. Not because he wasn't the Messiah, but because he came in to change their world. My question for each one of us this morning is, have we allowed ourselves often to become blinded to God and to what his word says? Have we allowed ourselves to become so blinded that we don't want to hear when there's tough passages? And we don't want to hear when there's things that makes us feel a little bit uncomfortable. Or God asks us to step out a little further than what we like to step out. And we just shut our ears and closed our eyes. For you see, Jesus is the Son of God. And he's made that clear through his death on the cross. That death for you and I. That death that overcomes sin and death. For as the Scripture says, he was crucified on the cross, he was buried, he was raised again on that third day. Paul, talking to the church in Corinth in 1 Corinthians 15, does a great example of lying that out. And not only was he raised from the dead, but Paul goes on to say, and you have seen him. There's witnesses to that. This Messiah has overcome death. Are we willing to take those signs, those things that have been done, and believe and be convicted and convinced in him? This morning, if you're here, if you're ready to put Christ on, and you've never done that, what better time than now? If you need prayers in the church, would you come as we stand and sing?